Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Over the past 31 years, I've had the joy of traveling repeatedly to many corners of this vast subcontinent that is India. It is amazing to see how landscapes, culture, food, music, dances, and even languages change every few hundred kilometers that you drive. You see the highest mountains of the world, great seas, bountiful rivers, and best of all, a people whose thoughts and heritage go back a few thousand years. Join us on an enthralling journey. I am traveling again across the whole of India to bring you spectacular India. Tamil Nadu is on the east coast of peninsular India. This state has been a great cradle of Indian culture, and many ancient traditions of dance, music, architecture and lifestyle continue and flourish here till today. Temples were made out of hard and lasting granite in Tamil Nadu. There is an amazing continuity seen in the styles of temple building here, from Pallava times in the 7th century, through the rule of the Cholas and the Nayaks, up to the Maratha period in the 19th century. This makes this region unique in the country.
In the Tamil area, we have quite a chronology of the development of temple architecture. Under the Pallavas in the 7th and 8th centuries, we have the transition from rock-cut Hindu spaces, so-called cave temples, to structural temples. One of the early chief examples is the shore temple at Mabalapuram overlooking the Bay of Bengal. And these temple consists of a pair of sanctuaries, each with its own pyramidal tower. And this idea of crowning a sanctuary with a pyramidal tower goes on into later architecture.
Here in Tamil Nadu, the South Indian style of structural temples was firmly established by the 8th century in the temples of Mabalapuram and Kanchipuram. Above the shrine is a storied pyramidal tower. Pillared mandapas or halls were added later to the temples to accommodate worshippers.
If you go to the Kailas temple or the Vaikunta Perumal temple at that city, both built by early Pallava kings, you will find that the sanctuaries in each are crowned by a pyramidal tower. And the same pattern goes into early Chola temples.
The positions of wall niches with deities, their orientation and other details were set out in texts called the Agamas. By the time of the Cholas in Tamil Nadu, the temple walls had become repositories of a pantheon of deities. At Narthamalai, located on top of a hill amidst the great beauty of nature, is a 9th century temple. An inscription names it as the Vijayalaya Cholishvara temple. It may have been made by Vijayalaya Chola or by the Muttarya chieftains before his rule. The temple is dedicated to Shiva. The temple is made with a jewel-like perfection. The temple itself and every sculpture on it serve to take us away from mundane concerns to a world filled with a sense of grace. The Dwarapalas, or guardians of the doorways of the early temples of Tamil Nadu, often stand displaying the gesture of the Vismay Mudra, the gesture of wonderment. For indeed, it is a sense of wonder at the beauty of the whole of creation which fills the world of the early temples. A temple which marks the beautiful quality of early Chola sculpture is the Brahma Purishvara at Pulamangai. The temples of this period were not very large. The purpose was not to inspire awe through size and grandeur. It was to take us to the world of gentleness which can be found within us. The grace of the figures and their profoundly peaceful expressions awaken a sense of the sublime. The figures are fully occupied with the miracle of creation and the sense of stillness which comes from this absorption. Shiva's Ganas are the persons who were most devoted to the Lord. They have won the right to be perpetually close to Him. Ganas are some of the finest expressions of Chola art. In Indian art, the entire range of emotions and human life is given a place, be it joy, sorrow, or even mischief. Ganas are seen lost in devotion to the Lord. We can relate most easily to them as they play their musical instruments or dance with elation. On the south wall of the Ardha Mandapa or hall, we see Ganesha, also known as Ganapati, the leader of the Ganas who are made around him. A central motif in Indian art is the human figure riding on a vyal or leogryph. He is borne by the majestic power of the courage within us. Moovarkoil is the name of the 2 remaining Shiva temples out of 3 which were made at Kodambalur. These present a perfect balance between a dignified majesty of the spirit and the joy contained in it. How can anything as material as a piece of carved stone suggest or evoke something that is beyond the material? Something which in fact transcends materiality itself. The genius of Indian sculptors has been to present these very profound spiritual and intellectual ideas through the grace of the human body. Shiva dances on the demon of forgetfulness. In Indic belief, our ignorance is the forgetting of the truth, which can so easily be found again within us. As with other early Chola temples, this temple strikes a fine balance. Size and grandeur do not overwhelm the intimate feeling of the temple and its sculpture. In the beginning of the 11th century, we see a dramatic change of emphasis and scale in temple building. In the year 1010, Raja Chola completed the tallest and largest temple which had ever been made in India. The Brihadishvara, dedicated to the great Lord Shiva, was made to express his own power and military might as much as the grandeur of the Lord. The temple is 5 times the size of previous Chola ones, and its Vimana or tower stands 216 feet tall. Its monolithic stupi or crowning element weighs 80 tons. It is believed that an earthen ramp 6 kilometers long was made to take it up to its position. Rajaraja had greatly expanded his empire in all directions, including to the island of Sri Lanka. The temple was made to celebrate his achievements.
Suddenly things change at the turn of the 11th century. With Rajaraja I and his son and successor Rajendra, temple architecture moves into a different scale altogether. This you can judge by the great temple at Tanjore and the successor temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram. These are enormous monuments. The Tanjore monument is at least 66 meters high. It is possibly the highest and biggest towered sanctuary to be seen anywhere in India. It's built entirely of stone, and over the linga rises this hollow tower with successive stories forming a sort of pyramid reaching up to the sky. It's one of the most impressive pieces of structural architecture that we have anywhere in India, and it's covered, as you probably know, with beautiful stone sculptures of different aspects of Shiva. Gangaikonda Cholapuram, the temple built after about 1020 by Rajendra, is of a similar model.
King Rajendra was a son of Rajaraja Chola. Rajendra's successful military campaigns took him northwards all the way up to the shores of the river Ganga. From there, he brought back holy water from the Ganga and a stone. He founded a capital city 80 kilometers north of Thanjavur, which he called Gangaikonda Cholapuram, which means the city of the Chola who conquered and brought back the Ganga. Here he made the Brihadishvara temple to compare with the grandeur and size of his father's temple at Thanjavur. However, the Brihadishvara temple here is only 180 feet, whereas the one at Thanjavur is 216 feet high. However, the curving tower of this temple is unique and very beautiful. Numerous niches made around the Vimana house a large number of iconic sculptures. Among the finest is of Shiva conferring grace on Chandesha, a great devotee of the Lord. It has been suggested that this depiction has a double meaning, relating also to Shiva's blessings to Rajendra I. The grand scale of later Chola temples is also seen in the Airateshvara temple at Dharasuram, made by King Rajaraja Chola II in the 12th century. It is a magnificent structure which brings alive a period of regal splendor. A mandapa or hall is made in the style of a ratha or chariot. Wheels are made on the sides to draw the ratha forward. The grand Brihadishvara temples at Thanjavur and at Gangaikonda Cholapuram, made in the 11th century, mark the height of the development of temples under the Cholas. Besides the tower and the mandapa, high gopuras or entrance gateways were made. These were to become the models for the impressive temples of South India, which were to follow in later centuries. In this time, the role of the temple was also expanded to make it a major cultural and social institution. Inscriptions at the Thanjavur temple record innumerable grants and gifts which were made to the temple. Arrangements were made and housing colonies were created to accommodate 400 dancers, musicians and others who were employed for the daily temple rituals. Naturally, the architecture of the temple grew in keeping with its expanding role in the life of the community.
Thereafter, temple architecture is reduced in scale. Brick is used then for the towers, but the gateways start to emerge as the dominant architectural characteristics. If you go to Chidambaram, for example, which is the famous temple of dancing Shiva, there you will see 4 immense gateways, or gopuras as they're called in the Tamil zone. These date from the 12th and possibly the early 13th century. These are higher and more impressive pieces of architecture than the actual sanctuary of the temple itself, which is rather like a hut built of wood and covered with metallic tiles. And so it goes into later Chola architecture like Dharasuram. The towered sanctuary is not as impressive as the gateways.
Further developments of the temple complex occurred under the Vijayanagara kings, who ruled from the capital at Hampi in present-day Karnataka. In the 16th century, monumental temples were constructed under them in a style which became characteristic of Vijayanagara. Imposing gateway towers were made, which were much taller than those above the shrines. These were visible from afar and reflected imperial magnificence as well as the grandeur of the divine. The Shiva temple at Chidambaram is where the Lord is believed to have performed his cosmic dance as Nataraja. It is one of the most revered temples of Tamil Nadu. The earliest parts of the temple belong to Chola times. The Cholas made the Nataraja their family deity, and several kings had their coronations here. Under the Cholas, the roof of the sanctum was gilded. A mural of the beginning of the 11th century at the Brihadishvara temple at Tanjavur shows the golden canopy of the Chidambaram temple. Between the 12th and the 16th centuries, the modest-sized temple was extended to cover 40 acres of land. The formless divine, enshrined deep inside, was now also made visible from far away.
This whole system is then revived under the Nayaks, who were the chief rulers of Tamil Nadu in the 16th and 17th centuries. The Sri Rangam temple that we just mentioned, the Madurai temple, these mostly owe their present-day form to architecture of this period. We don't know much about Sri Rangam and Madurai in the 9th and 10th centuries. We can't see anything. What we see today is basically 16th, 17th, and maybe even early 18th century.
The grandeur of temples was further enhanced under the Nayaks by the making of prakaras or enclosed corridors. These connect various parts of the temple and create a most dramatic and impressive effect as a devotee walks through these on way to worship. The most famous of these is at the Shiva temple of Rameshwaram. The temple has approximately 1 kilometer of corridors. Each of the several hundreds of pillars is elaborately carved. One of the greatest achievements of the Nayak period is the making of the Minakshi temple at Madurai. It is one of the largest temples ever made and was created in the reign of Tirumalaya Nayak in the mid-17th century. The complex is built around 2 shrines. One is dedicated to Shiva as Sundareshwara, the beautiful Lord. The other is dedicated to his spouse Parvati as Minakshi, the fish-eyed one. The vast temple has 8 impressive gateways, one rising to almost 200 feet. These are each covered with several hundreds of sculptures. Perhaps the greatest example of the temple as the focus of life in South India is the Vishnu temple at Sri Rangam in the delta of the river Kaveri. There was a temple here in the 7th or 8th century. The 12 Vaishnav saints, the Alvas, sang more in praise of this temple than of any other. The present structures date from its reconstruction in 1371 onwards. The temple reached its final shape in the 17th century, when Sri Rangam became a capital of the Nayaks. The temple complex measures 878 meters by 755 meters, and it is the largest in India. It has 21 gopuras, not all of which were completed.
And at Sri Rangam, we have this complete succession of towered gates leading all the way into the innermost sanctuary, which is quite a modest structure. But the gates are absolutely enormous structures. In fact, the largest of them was left unfinished in the 17th century and only completed in about 1985. And I think it's almost the tallest towered building that we have in the Tamil area. So this tradition of gigantic architecture is relocated to the peripheries of the temple zone, to the gates. So you have these diminishing towers as you proceed into the temple. The towers get lower and lower until you reach the most sacred spot, which can be quite modest architecturally, like at Sri Rangam, where the sanctuary which accommodates the reclining form of Vishnu is covered just with a little barrel vaulted roof, but of course it's gilded, so it looks very special.
The Ranganatha Swami temple is the largest functioning Hindu temple of the world. At the center is the Garbhagriha, the womb chamber, where we hope to be born again in realization of the truth. From there, the form of the temple expands through 7 concentric walls. In fact, the last 2 parikramas, as the space between the walls is called, is occupied by flower sellers, shops, and restaurants. In Indian belief, the final truth is Nirgun, the formless eternal. And from there, we see that formless eternal expanding outwards and expressing itself through the multiplicity of the forms of the world. In fact, all that there is divine, for it is but a manifestation of that sacred, that formless eternal. In the last 2 parikramas, we see the separation of the profane city beyond and the holy interior blurred. So that is where it is still sacred ground, and we see the activity of the world, the selling of flowers, restaurants, shops. In fact, the entire city beyond is also an expansion of the temple. In the great temple cities of South India, the grandeur of the Lord is celebrated in all aspects of life. Tamil Nadu is a land where ancient practices continue till today in an unbroken tradition. A land where the divine essence of our lives is never forgotten, even in the midst of the daily concerns of life.